Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Matt. It is Wiser Wednesday, which means it's time for me to make you a little bit wiser about some of sci-fi and fantasy's best authors that you've never heard of. Except this one you've definitely heard of. I talk about him all the time. He's my favorite. I love him. Steven Erikson. He's the best. Today we're talking about why you need to read him, because he's just the master. So, The Malazan Book of the Fallen is a 10-book epic fantasy series written by Canadian author Steven Erikson, and it takes place in a unique world that he and his friends created in the 80s for their RPG campaign. Erikson and his friend Esmond later started writing stories set in this world, detailing their years of gaming campaigns, and that is how the Malazan series was born. And due to the way that the world came about, and due to Erikson and Esmond's training as archaeologists and anthropologists, the Malazan world is incredibly rich and detailed and immersive, as it has more history than even our world, essentially. We know more about the last 300,000 years of the Malazan world than we do about the last 300,000 years of our world. So, there's that. So, reasons you should read the Malazan books are because the world is so complex and large in scope, it truly feels like its own unique place that exists outside of our reality. It has such a rich and detailed history that you can totally immerse yourself in it and honestly spend lifetimes just learning about the intricacies of all the different cultures, the magic systems, the different races that we have, and the history of the world. The main story spans like 3/4 continents, and that is a lot just on its own in terms of scope. Once you finish the 10 main books, you can then jump into Ian Esmond's books where he explores 3 more of those continents. So there's always more to learn. So one of the reasons that I love this series so much is because of the realism. The way that the world was created was for an RPG campaign, and if you don't know how tabletop RPGs work, you have to roll a dice to decide whether your actions fail or succeed. And so because of that, Erikson made the god of chance in this world, Opon, or twin gods of chance, especially strong. And so basically no character really has much plot armor. A character can die at literally any time, and we see that happen again and again because of very realistic reasons that would happen in the real world. Like if you were on a giant military campaign and you had to send a message from one army to another, maybe a stray arrow takes your messenger and that message never arrives, and because of that a maneuver doesn't happen and then people die. When you're reading like a traditional book, when you're reading like other books, like say the Lightbringer series for example, that's not something that you really see happen. Things tend to go more according to plan than they would otherwise. And so in this series, plans mean absolutely nothing. People die on mass scales just because of small mistakes, and I just find that it's a really realistic look at what this world would actually be like. And that's one of the reasons that I love the series, is because the series has devastated me so many times again and again. The next reason to read the series is for the plot. The plot is just very, very complex because there's this whole very intricate and interesting geopolitical situation going on with this expansionist Malazan Empire. There is this very intricate and interesting geopolitical situation going on with the ever-expanding Malazan Empire basically knocking on its neighbors' doors and saying, your land is mine now. The Malazans have a lot of enemies. They have a lot of disparate enemies from different continents and different peoples within those continents, and they're all fighting against the Malazans in their own way, when really maybe if they just banded up together, they could take down the Empire once and for all. But that is what makes the plot so interesting. If you're the type of reader who likes to theorize about how things fit together and make predictions on what is going to happen later in the series, that's going to be very difficult for you because you have to consider all of these different angles that you don't even know about that definitely have a play and a stake in what is going to go down. In the first book, Gardens of the Moon, we are following the Malazans as they try and conquer the last 2 free cities on the continent of Genobakis. And some of the things that happen there, you can't really have predicted because the reasons they happen are due to politics back in the capital of the empire, a whole 2 continents away, basically. Along with that, even if you do consider the angle of what's going on politically, in the capital, the entire series at the same time is also basically just a huge game of the gods, where these gods are constantly jockeying for power and trying to cast down their rivals, accrue more power to themselves, gain more worshippers and followers, and you can't really predict how that's going to act either. So basically, everything you see happen in the series, maybe not everything, but a lot of what you see has the hand of a god behind it that is working from the shadows, hence the god Shadow Throne, for example. Um, but that's just what makes the plot so damn interesting. The next recent read of the Malazan books is for the magic system. Now, the magic system is where I really just fell in love and got super duper immersed in this series, because the magic is based on warrens, or paths, as they're sometimes known. Now, warrens are basically entire realms that have a primary affinity to one specific element, and if you are a mage, you might identify with a specific warren or possibly multiple warrens. And if you're a mage, that means that you can basically tap into the power of that realm and draw that elemental power through yourself in order to enact whatever of your own magic that you want. However, along with that, a super interesting aspect is that if you want to travel great distances at either higher speeds, or you just need to make a quick getaway because you're in a tricky situation, you can open a portal to this warren, step inside, and be gone from the Malazan world, and basically end up in the Warren of Fear, of Light, or of Roots, the ocean, which is one huge gigantic sea. And so once you're in that realm, you can then travel fairly quickly, open a portal back to your world, and you will have traveled a further distance than if you just walked in your own world. And so that's an interesting aspect. But what really, really sold me on the series is the Deck of Dragons, or the Fatigue as it's sometimes called. Actually, no, it's really never called that. It says that in the glossary beginning, but I don't think anyone actually ever says Fatigue. Um, but the Deck of Dragons is basically a tarot system. It is a system of divination used by adepts all over the world in order to just do general purpose predictions of the future. However, what is super, super interesting is that every card within the Deck of Dragons actually represents a real person or ascendant that has a place within the pantheon. So if you didn't know, within the Malazan world, there are people called ascendants who are humans or just people of any species, really, that have been able to either make a deal with a god in order to join their household. They've just personally accrued enough magical power that they are now essentially immortal or undying. They can still be killed, but they don't age. And being an ascendant means that you are either unaligned or you fall within a specific household. For example, High House Dark, which is ruled by Animander Rake. There are different positions within that house, like the Mason or Soldier or whatever, and these can be actual humans who now occupy that position. And so, because all the cards within the Deck of Dragons are actually based on real people, mages and adepts can actually predict a god's potential involvement in a situation using the Deck of Dragons. And so, sometime in the beginning of Gardens of the Moon, Tattersail does a reading, and we see Son of Darkness represented. And Son of Darkness being Animander Rake, we see that in the convergence of the first book, he plays a large part. We see a whole variety of cards show up throughout the divinations in the series, and that is something that you should always pay attention to because it will help you predict how events are going to unfold. And that is just something that I've found so incredibly fascinating and cool. And that is one of the reasons that I love the series so much, is because personally, I am the type of person who really, really loves theorizing and making predictions and trying to puzzle out how something is going to happen. And that's one of the things that is amazing about the series is in the beginning, the series is challenging because you're thrown into the middle of a situation with very little exposition and you're just kind of expected to sink or swim. And so in the beginning, when you're reading it, it feels like you've come across this really difficult math problem and you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what formulas to use. You don't know how to get started. And you're just going through the motions, trying your best, and suddenly things start to click. And you're like, okay, I got this now. And you really get into it and you feel like proud of yourself when you figured something out. And that is a feeling you're just constantly getting with the series. And it is the reason that I love the series as much as I do. The next reason to read the Malazan Book of the Fallen is for the writing. Now, like I just said, once you start the first book, you're thrown into the middle of the action with very little exposition. And that can feel like it is just a bad writer. But he's done this purposefully. If you read the foreword in Gardens of the Moon, he specifically says that this book is not going to be for everyone, and it certainly won't be. This isn't a series that I recommend just like blindly and widely to everyone. It's for a specific type of reader. But once you get through that, you realize that he actually has some very fantastic characterization. He writes very cinematically too. He also has some phenomenally written prose that tackle a whole variety of subjects and themes. And Erikson honestly has a lot to say about the natures of existence, um, just the human condition, compassion, war. He touches on all sorts of things, and that is why Erikson refers to the Malazan books as a 3.5 million word plea for compassion. Compassion is a really big theme in the series, and reading it honestly has made me a more compassionate person. The next reason to read the series is for the characters. This is a series that literally has hundreds of characters. If you go through the dramatis personae of every single book and tally them up, I think there are like over 1,100 characters mentioned, if I remember correctly. Now, because these books deal with the same people, I'm sure it's not that many, but if you just write down every single name that appears in the dramatis personae, it's like over 1,100. And so there are going to be some characters that you absolutely love, that you feel for. There are going to be some characters that make you laugh, like Crook, the Squirrel Pust. He's my favorite. Tehel and Bug, they're honestly pretty damn hilarious in Midnight Tides, Reaper's Gale, and so forth. And then my favorite character in the entire series, Sergeant Hellion. She comes in the Bone Hunters, and she is just this drunk soldier that is absolutely hilarious to read about. But along with her, but along with humorous characters, we also got heartbreaking ones. We get villains who are so incredibly hateable. One of the worst characters in the entire series is Kalor, and he is just so contemptible. I love to hate him. And honestly, he's the number one dick in the Malazan series because, in a way, he brought about the entire problem with the Crippled God. The Crippled God is kind of the main antagonist in the series, as he's this foreign deity that was brought down to the Malazan world millennia ago. And ever since, he has been poisoning the world and poisoning everything in the realm. And Kalor is the reason for that. So I hate him. I hate him the most. But yes, throughout the series, there are going to be characters that you absolutely love, characters that make you laugh, characters you hate, and characters you love to hate. And there are going to be characters that you get very attached to that die, and it's just going to hurt you really, really badly. But that is what makes the series so impactful and what makes the series stick with you, in my opinion. And because I try and keep these videos short, the final reason that I think that you guys should read the series is because there's always more to read. Once you get through Erikson's main 10-book series, you can jump into Esselmont's Malazan Empire series, which has 6 books in it. Then you can jump to his Path to Ascendancy series that details the kind of rise of the Malazan Empire, where we see Emperor Kellenwood and Dancer recruit some of the main players that we know and love from these books. After that, you can read Erikson's Carcanus trilogy, though there are only 2 books of that out. you can tackle his novellas, and then after that, Erikson has begun writing a trilogy about everybody's favorite noble savage, Karsa Orlong. Karsa Orlong is a character that we spend the first 250 pages of book 4 with, because a critic of Erikson said that he couldn't write a single POV story to save his life. He clapped back with 250 pages about Karsa, and while he is a despicable character at first, he becomes a bit better, and he becomes a lot of people's favorite character in the series. And so I'm super excited that Erikson has, I'm pretty sure, just recently finished writing The God Is Not Willing, book 1 of the Tobukai trilogy. And so that is super exciting news for me. But say you do finish the entire, I think, 23 book Malazan compendium, you're still not done, because I personally would argue that the Malazan Book of the Fallen is a series that demands you reread it. The first time that you reread the series, you will be blown away and baffled by all of the things that you missed that seem so obvious in retrospect. And that, I think, is the mark of a really good writer, is all of the foreshadowing that we see in the beginning of the series. There is foreshadowing within each book, but also events in book 1 might foreshadow something that happens in book 4 or book 8 later down the road. And that just emphasizes why I feel like this series is like one complex math problem, or like a puzzle that's just super enjoyable once you kind of catch your stride and you're on a roll and you're just really happy figuring things out and being proven correct or being proven wrong. I think that's one of the joys of the series, and that's one of the reasons that I love it so much, and that's the reason that I've read it 9 times. It's just that fantastic. You might think I'm a little bit crazy to reread a 3.5 million word series 9 times, and you'd be right, but also it's just so amazing that I can't help it. Anyway, you guys, that is the author that I wanted to tackle this week. I will be back next week talking about another of my favorite authors. See if you can guess who it is down below. A hint is that they just released a new book very recently. Also, I would appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the channel. I put out new videos at least once a week, sometimes more, occasionally less. But now that I'm in quarantine, I don't really have anything else to do, so I'll be filming a lot. But yes, if you would like the video, share it with some of your book-loving friends, and subscribe to the channel. That would really mean a lot to me. I really want to grow this community, and that way I will be able to reach a lot of people and recommend them books that they otherwise would never have heard of. That's kind of my goal with this channel. That's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and let me know down below what is your favorite Malazan book and who's your favorite Malazan character. With that being said, have a good one, guys. Bye.